this. Okay, and here we go. So I'm recording on Zoom and I am live on Facebook and Instagram because I really want to just share this story and give you guys this content. Okay, so now I'm live on Instagram and hopefully this goes smoothly. So my name is Majek. I am the founder and owner of TheInnHerExpereince, which is a lifestyle brand catering to women, supporting them through emotional, spiritual, and mental experiences. Yeah. So I don't know how I want to start this off, but if you bear with me, we'll get through it. So I don't know if you guys have been watching or if you're aware, but I've been doing a series on my platforms about just the struggles that I've been going through this past couple of months with my life and trying to build something for myself. So this is the last and final part of my story of how I've been sharing my experiences and what has been going on with me and how I've been processing the events that have been unfolding in my life and how I've been approaching them in real time with my internal practices of spirituality and self-care. So I shared my videos in order to give you an example of how you can trust yourself, how you can build a relationship with God, how you can honor your truth and your authenticity and really start to develop your sense of inner security and your sense of power. So this is my journey, and I hope you're able to start your journey and work with me on creating that journey for yourself as well. Okay, so I want to get into the story of the last part of my 3-part story. So everything that you're about to hear has literally happened over the past, I want to say week, over the past 1 to 2 weeks. So from last week to this week. And yeah, so this is happening in real time. So excuse me for the look. I just woke up it's the morning time here in Arizona. So I'm just getting myself together. And I just wanted to get this video out and share it so that you guys could have it. Yeah. Okay. So where do I start? I think I want to start where I leave off from, okay, so I want to start from where I left off on the last video, which was the fact that I had to move all of my belongings out of my place after my place flooded. So my place flooded and they put us up in a hotel, and it wasn't even a hotel, it was a motel. And it was the worst place I think I don't want to say I've ever stayed, but it was really dirty. It was just really uncomfortable, and it was a motel, and it was not, it just wasn't right. I don't know what to say. It wasn't right. But so I spent the night at that motel, and then the next day we go back to the property. There's like, I think a bunch of us, like 4 or 5 of us, we go back to the property. I'm the one, I just wanted to get there and get whatever, get some answers, get things figured out. Like, I wanted to just hop on making things happen, because at this point I have nowhere to live. I don't know where I'm going to sleep the next day. So what's going on? I need answers. What's the next point of action that needs to be done or that I need to take? So I head over to the property. I talk to the property manager, who is no help whatsoever. They had Red Cross waiting for us, so that we could receive support through this process. Mind you guys, I don't have a job and I have very little funds to live off of for the next couple of weeks. So I don't know how I'm going to figure out my living situation. So Red Cross is there. They assess the damages. They said, yeah, this was a disaster site. Excuse me. So they assign us what would be I forgot the name, of caseworker. So they assign us a caseworker, and they provide us with $500 to be able to find a place to stay while we figure out the next steps. So that was a really great blessing that was provided to us in order to help us get to the next step from that point in time. So I get $500 to get myself a place to stay. So I grab a few items that I could wear for a week, and I head off to an Airbnb. I stay at an Airbnb, and I start setting things up with this property site that I lived on, with the company manager or the property manager. And so we had insurance that would cover the damages done to the apartment. I call the insurance and they just don't want to talk to me. They're saying, you need to talk to your property manager, talk to her first, and then you will figure out what it is that you need to do. So they were supposed to, so when I signed my lease for this place, I was told that everything was covered and that I didn't need to get secondary insurance for my belongings. That was a lie. I speak to the property manager. The property manager goes, the insurance is not going to cover any damages lost to your belongings because the insurance does not cover that. It only covers structural damage. And then it does not cover disaster or flooding. It only covers piping or building or tenant damage. So if I damage something in the building or in the apartment, then the insurance would then be able to cover it. So the insurance was basically shit. It didn't cover anything having to do with floods or natural disasters or anything like that. It would only cover damages done by the renter or structural damages, I guess, accrued over time to the apartment. So the insurance wasn't going to pay out anything. So I'm not getting any money from the insurance that I was paying for rent. But luckily I was only there for 2 weeks. So luckily I was only living there for 2 weeks. So the next day I go to the property and I ask these people what they are going to do. Are they going to find us another place to live? Are they going to provide us a place to stay while they give us another place to live? They said no, they're not going to provide us with a place to stay while they are figuring out what to do. And they didn't even really want to move me into a different apartment. I had to ask that they do that. I had to ask that be an option, actually. And with that, it was just a really like clusterfuck of a situation, if I could say that. It basically was just this property manager who didn't know how to do her job, telling me that there really wasn't going to be anything that could be done because they're not taking any responsibility or they are not liable for any of what occurred, even though it was because of their roofing construction that this happened, because they had poor roofers for the company that they hired who were slow and only had 2 roofers working on a 20 wide apartment roof. But that's neither here nor there. So get back to the property manager. So I'm talking to her and I'm asking her, like, so the insurance isn't going to cover anything, and then you guys aren't willing to put us up for the time that we are out of our units that I'm paying rent. And then on top of it, you don't know if you have any units that you can move me into yet. So where does that leave me? Like, I only have a week of an Airbnb. And then, so I'm yelling at her at this point and arguing like about what I went through. I'm explaining to her how I was literally going from one place to another to try and save my apartment, which is not something you should never have to do, because that's not your responsibility as a renter to save your apartment. But I guess I was just trying to save my belongings and take care of what I owned as the owner. So I was acting as an owner of an apartment, a rental apartment. Doesn't make any sense. But I was yelling at her and telling her, like, this is what I've been through. This has been my experience. And as I'm telling her everything that I experienced in real time, never been through this, never been through a flood, this woman starts smirking. There was a smirk on her face as I was explaining my emotions, my reactions, and my actions to water flooding my apartment. And then I said, I'm glad you think it's funny that I went through. I'm glad you think my experience is funny. And she goes, I'm not laughing at you, even though she had a smirk on her face. I'm like, okay. So we finish our conversation and I walk out and I start crying because I just don't know what to do. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what options are available. I don't have any answers. And I get on a phone with a family member and I tell them what's going on. And I just felt that they didn't really care about what I was experiencing. So even though as much as they were willing to offer a bit of support, I just didn't feel connected to the support they were offering, to really having them as a shoulder to lean on. So as you can see, this experience has been a very emotional roller coaster. So getting off the phone with them, I go back. So they did offer some advice, and getting off the phone with them, I go back to the property manager and I tell her I don't want to be on the lease anymore, and that I no longer want to be a resident or rent with them, and that I want to end my lease. So she goes, okay, I will see what I can do. Which doesn't make any sense, because it should just be okay. Because at this point, you don't have a place for me to live. You don't know if you can provide me with a place to live. And you aren't really giving me any solutions or providing me with much of any answers. So I leave. And through this whole process, I cried so much. So I start looking into what are my options and what could I do from where I'm at. And my options are going into the legal realm, because I don't I've never been through this. I don't know how to handle a property that refuses to provide the necessary aspects of taking care of a damage, like totally damaged uh, living accommodations. And so I'm like, okay, well, I need to figure out what to do. I need to get um, I need to get to the next place because this place is no longer a viable option. They're not willing to help me. And what they're offering isn't something that I can take because I don't feel safe living there anymore. So I think like a few days go by, during the entire time, they weren't very responsive. They weren't calling, they weren't, I was the one that had to be the one, this doesn't make sense. I was the one that had to um, be consistent with them because they were not consistent in calling back to inform me on what was going on. Once we got to the point where I decided that I would no longer live with them, I was the one that had to keep asking to speak with people, and I would not get my phone calls returned. I was not uh, helped. And all the while, I'm also trying to figure out, okay, I can't live there anymore. I need to find a place to live. So I start looking on different platforms of how to of where to live, not how to, but where to live. And basically, I I'm researching, I'm looking, I'm calling places, I'm emailing people, I'm sending out emails, and I'm not getting a response from people. So I have to move in faith into the next direction, which is to continue staying at a Airbnb. So where I was staying was really expensive and I couldn't afford that. And it had been it had been a week by this point. So I'm coming down to like the last 2 days of staying at the first Airbnb. So I start to look for other places to live, and I have but so much money. So I can only spend a certain amount for, excuse me, I had to shift myself. So I can only do a certain amount because I'm limited with my funds. So I look on Airbnb and literally there's practically nothing available. There's like a few places available, but they're all in like out of Phoenix. So they're all in like a different part of Arizona. I don't drive, and I am not going to take a bus to a whole other city that's at least anywhere from 30 to like an hour away max. But there was this one location, and this is the part that I want to mention, that like the universe is always working with you, and not even with you, I want to say the universe is working for you, because there was just one apartment, and it wasn't even an apartment. It was a listing. There was one listing, and it was at a really great price for the amount of time that I could rent for. And it stuck out to me. And it was exactly what I was accustomed to. And it felt good. And I booked it. So everything that was available was either out of the city of Phoenix or everything was out of the city of Phoenix or really expensive, like overly expensive, like $100 a night or more. And I didn't have funds to do $100 a night at an Airbnb for 5 or 6 nights. That would have been like anywhere between $600 to $700 for a week. And I typically spend $600 to $700 to $800 on rent for a month. So I see one Airbnb for $30 a night, and it was in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is about a 15-minute ride out of Phoenix. So I booked that. And this is in August, which is the week of my birthday. So imagine being out of a home, out of a job, the week of your 39th birthday. This was what I was experiencing. So I couldn't enjoy the week of my birthday. I couldn't enjoy my life at this point. I had to focus on resettling myself. I had to focus on what I was going to do with my belongings. So I decided that I was no longer going to live at this property because it wasn't safe, and it wasn't the best option. And I know I could do better. And this is a thing that I believe for myself, and the thing that I believe for my life is that I can give myself the best. I can allow myself to receive the best. I can go after the best for myself, even if that means I have to withstand some really ugly things in the process. And I will get to that. So if you're on this live and you're enjoying the story time, please give me a thumbs up. If you're not on this live and you're watching after the recording, let me know that you are here. Leave a comment or something. So going back to the story. So I decided I'm not going to live there anymore. They said they'll give me back a deposit and that they're going to take. So mind you, I got the first month of August free. After I said I was leaving, they state that they would have to charge me for the days that I lived in the apartment. And I'm pissed because not only are you charging me for the days that I lived in the apartment, but it's your fault that this apartment got flooded and you're charging me for the days that I lived there because I'm no longer on the lease. So you're taking money away from me on top of it after everything that I've experienced because of their negligence. Okay. So they said they're going to have to charge me for the days that I've stayed, and that, so they just didn't keep their word. Their word was not kept. They're very back and forth um, about a lot of things. So bear with me because I'm nervous and I'm telling my story and I'm sharing a very personal experience, and I'm trying to get to the point and share the power of God in this story. So okay. So after trying to figure out where I'm going to stay, after trying to figure out what I'm going to do, I decide that I'm not living there. And then I have to now go back to this place, go through the things that aren't damaged, collect my items, and move them out and store them because I don't know where I'm living. And it was such a process. It has been such a process. So I go back to my apartment and I start moving my things out. I rent another U-Haul van, and I start moving whatever wasn't damaged from this whole experience. And I'm so blessed and so just taken care of, because when I was moving my stuff, I didn't want to take everything and put it in this bag that I have, in a duffel bag that I use it as my travel bag. Instead I wanted to put plastic trash bags over my clothes that were hanging, and then when I arrived to my apartment, to the new studio, I would take the bags off. I would just put them on the hanging rail and take the bags off. But because of my laziness, which always seems to support me somehow, I didn't take my clothes out of the bag. Like I didn't take the bags off off my clothes. I just hung my clothes up, and they were preserved through this experience. My clothes didn't get damaged. Things did get damaged, but they weren't things that would set me back financially too much. So my clothes were preserved for the most part. A lot of my belongings were preserved through this. And I don't know how, because it shouldn't have been. But because I trusted the guidance that I was receiving, because I took time to listen to the voice of God that was leading me in meditation, I was able to salvage a lot of my belongings. So I take my items, I take the things that I wanted, I take the things that I could salvage, I take the things that were not damaged, and I move them into the van, and I move out of the apartment, and I rent a storage unit. And all along the way, like, God had been working on my behalf, because I was looking for a storage unit that had to be within a certain price, and I found it. I had to rent a van, and my license was expiring the week of my birthday. So I was everything just happened within a time frame that allowed me to restore myself and restore my life. So my license expired on my birthday. This whole thing happened over a 2-week period, and the week of my birthday is the week that I had to move all of my belongings out, rent a van, and move into a storage unit. And then finding a place that I could afford for a week helped me to figure out my next steps. So back to finding a place to stay. So I found a place to stay for a week at a really good price, but it's outside of the city that I live in. So 15 minutes away, not too bad. So I go and stay there for a week. While I'm there, I am so worried and so stressed out because I need to find an apartment, because I only have but so much money to get to my next living situation. So I'm not focused on finding a job. I'm focused on finding where to live. So I'm using this time to look for places to stay that's more permanent. So mind you, as I'm leaving, so let's jump back a little bit. As I'm driving off the lot of this old property that I lived on, the one that the flood happened on, a voice tells me to look, a voice, and I'm saying my inner voice tells me to look for rooms to rent versus trying to start all over for my own apartment or my own studio. A voice tells me, my inner voice tells me, look to rent a room instead of having to start all over for an apartment or a studio. And the reason why is because at this point, I only have 1 month of rent. I've lost my security deposit and I've lost my first month of rent, and I can only afford my next month of rent, and that's about $800. So I started looking for rooms that were about $600 to rent monthly, so that could get me to my next place, which is to have somewhere stable to stay and find work while I'm getting back on my feet. So while I'm staying at this Airbnb out in Scottsdale, I also want to enjoy my birthday. So I take one day. Okay, so this is before I go to my Airbnb. So I had my birthday, and it was on the 20th, and I used that day to just take time off and to spend with myself and to stay at a hotel, since I don't have anywhere else to stay. And my next place was going to be in Scottsdale. So I take that one day to myself, and I use that time to rest, and I use that time to enjoy my life, because I'm alive and I'm well. I'm alive, I'm safe, and I'm healthy. So I celebrate myself by relaxing by the pool, which you guys probably saw because I have shown some pictures from the day of my birthday. So once I had finished that day, I went to the Airbnb, and that's when I started to look for not apartments, but everything, like apartments, studios, a one room rent, a monthly room to rent. And I couldn't find anything. Like, I could not find anything. And I had standards. So I didn't want to live with guys. I didn't want to live with animals. Like, I love dogs, but at this point in my life, I don't want to live with pets. So I didn't want to live with pets, and I didn't want to live with people who smoked or were 420 friendly. I just want a clean, comfortable, safe, normal, basic place to stay. And I couldn't find any of this. The people that I was reaching out to were either trying to scam me or not, hang on, sorry. Were either trying to scam me or not reaching back out. And whatever I did find, it just didn't work out. It was either too far or it had some sort of issue. And coming from what I came from, I didn't want to settle if I'm going to have to rent a room. So this is part of my story, is that even though you're going through hard times, that doesn't mean you have to settle in life. You can have standards, you can have limits, but you don't have to settle for things that don't align with your beliefs. So with that, I couldn't find anywhere to live. So I go stay with a friend who wasn't a friend. I ended up having to leave, and this happened to me twice. So I ended up having to leave this one place that I stayed with, or this one person that I stayed with, for within a 24-hour period. And I then reached out to another friend who also wasn't someone I could call a friend, and had to leave their place within a 48-hour period. And then I had to go back to staying at Airbnbs. So all along the way, God was speaking to me. All along the way, God was guiding me. All along the way, I was being led by a force greater than myself, because I have given my life over to this creating force that exists as what we know of as God. This is where I get my guidance from. This is where I get my intuitive skills from. This is where my direction comes from a lot of the times. And it's because I have such an intimate relationship with this force, that it speaks to me in dreams, it speaks to me in thoughts, it speaks to me in feelings, it speaks to me through, yeah. it whispers through whispers. So now I'm back at an Airbnb, which is the current one you're seeing me in. And I have been here for a month. And I was guided to ask to stay here for a month. And I've been able to get on my feet with the small amount of time that I have left here. So the end of the month is coming and I have to move again. I have to find another place to stay. But during the time that I was here, my sole focus was to find work so that I could have more income coming in so that I can establish my next place for me to live. During the time that I've been here, I've had to potentially I've had to potentially go stay in a shelter, in a homeless shelter, because I wasn't sure of what the outcome would be. And that was the first week that I was here. The first week I was here, I was looking for places to stay. I still didn't find anything. Nothing opened up. And I took the opportunity to ask the person that was doing her Airbnb if she would be willing to let me rent for 1 month, rent her room out, the room that I'm staying in, for a month. And she obliged and said yes. So while I've been here, I've been focusing on, like I said, finding work, getting back on my feet. And that process has been a really emotional journey. It's been an eye-opening journey. It's been some really powerful lessons to experience and go through. And I think that's where I want to end this video, because the next video will be about the lessons that I've gained through the process of the time that I've had while I've been staying here and what that has looks like for me. So through the last 3 to 4 weeks, the whole learning experience, or the whole journey, has been about moving into the next right direction, just moving into the direction in which I thought was the most suitable for me, and allowing the process to unfold. And not only allowing the process to unfold, but allowing there to be joy, allowing there to be play, and allowing there to be fulfillment through it all. Because while I was also trying to find work and a place to live at the same time, there is also the need for me to enjoy my life, to enjoy myself. There was a need for play. There was a need for me to find joy in the midst of pain. And that is the next story, the next part of the story to tell. And I will be back to do that on another video. So I end this video by sharing with you that although you're gonna face times of delusion, and when I say delusion, I mean like you're gonna see things that are telling you that you're the wrong one, you're a fuck up, you're a mess up, you didn't do this right, you didn't do that right. It's a lie, and it's not the truth of who you are. And in the midst of all of that, you're going to find the truth. You're going to be able to overcome, and you'll see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you'll see who you truly are through it all. This has been my experience. And faithfulness, having faith has also been my experience in going through what I've been going through. So I am Editor Majek. This is the In Her Experience, and I will talk to you again. Have a good one, guys. I love you, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye.